Hello. Hey, everyone. I know I'm towards the end of the day, so let's first stand up and stretch. My virtual audience, stand up and stretch with me. Come on, because we got to get your juices flowing. Okay, cool. Only because it's the end of the day, and I know what that means. And I'm going to maybe challenge some of your thoughts today. So with that, now that we're stretched, all right, awesome. So as everyone is sitting down and as you're watching virtually, I'd love for you to let me know where you are in this journey of moving to subscription-based services. So if you are hourly, raise your hand. Virtual, if you're hourly, type a 1 in the chat. Okay, we have some hourly. If you are flat fee, type 2 in the chat and raise your hand if you're flat fee here. Okay, I'm like, the lights, all right. Okay, and then in the chat, if you are subscription, type 3. And then here, if you're subscription, let me see. Okay, every year this gets better. So that makes me excited. All right, so I'm excited to be here. I am Kimberly Bennett, and we're going to be talking about creating subscription-based practices. I'm going to do my best for those of you virtually watching to keep you as engaged as possible, but please use the chat and ask any questions you have. And for everyone that's here live, ask the questions. Feel free to let me know what thoughts you have, and we're going to go through the day. So be a part of the convo. Like I said, ask the questions, and we did our stretch so we can all be present. My goal here is to help you move forward today and take action. That doesn't mean everything's going to be every I is going to be dotted, every T is going to be crossed, but you're just going to decide on your next action forward, okay? If you have objections, if you have experiences, if you're thinking about roadblocks as we go through today, raise your hand. Let's address them, but we have an hour, so feel free to, drop by after and let's chat a little bit more about anything that you have, okay? So this is what we're going to chat about today. I'm going to do 3 big sections, and at the end, definitely have time for Q&A, but like I said, if you have questions, just raise your hand. I'll need you to raise your hand and speak up. Hopefully there's a mic somewhere. So first part, we're going to focus on pitching. So if you heard me speak about this before, I'm going to say this now. What you should be doing now if you're interested in subscription services is to start pitching your potential clients. You don't need your subscription built, but you do need to start pitching. And why are you pitching? To see who's interested, to see what they want, to see what they might be interested in seeing you offer them, to get feedback, to start surveying people so that you can start taking action and think about what your design is going to look like. Then we're going to just review what I've talked about in the past. So has anyone seen did you see my talk about, it was during COVID, 2 years ago. Anyone saw my talk 2 years ago? Okay, so most people didn't, so that's okay. So we'll go a little bit of a review on pitching, is what I did before, and then we're gonna go into designing your subscription. So of course in 60 minutes, I can't get through everything, but we're gonna give you some tips and tricks, and then we're gonna finally talk about delivering. And throughout it, I'm gonna tell you things and concerns, but the premise here is that y'all want to move forward. And if you have any questions, this is how you can reach me and stay in contact after this. So use that QR code. All right. Core premise today is that the hourly model is stifling your impact, right? I'm not here to convince you hourly is wrong, that you should move off the hourly train. That's what we believe here. If you don't, cool, but I'm going to act like you do. And just in case you might be saying, let's just use a little data that we got from Jack at the top of the keynote. So if you currently bill hourly, grab your phone, pull out your calculator, type in your hourly rate, right? The next, I want you to multiply that by how many hours annually you bill. So if it's 1,900, 1,500, whatever, right? And then I want you to multiply that by 0.11. Whatever that number is, that is how much it represents per attorney in your firm, of how much or per biller in your firm at that rate, how much you're losing every single year with hourly billing. So you see your number, make the choice, but we're going to assume that you know, like me, that it's killing your business model and it's stifling your impact. Okay, everyone with me? All right. Next thing as we go through today, this is very much more workshop style. I like engagement, raising hands, asking questions. That's really what I like in any presentation I do. So as you're thinking about designing, though, one of the things I want you to think about are that constraints are the foundation of impactful design. That means you have to have some parameters. That means when we talk about scope, not everything can be included, right? You have to have an understanding of what is and is not included. So constraints are really the foundation of impactful design. Less is more. All right, so a little bit about my journey. Again, I'm Kim Bennett. This is my dad. I'm a second-generation attorney that started my career in corporate. And when I started my career in corporate, I didn't bill by the hour. You know what we did? We worked for our clients. We solved business issues. I started in traditional labor, so I negotiated labor agreements. I sat second chair, sometimes even first chaired, right? Young in my career doing those things. Then the market crashed. So I was following, my dad's a labor attorney as well. The market crashed, and all of my abilities to grow in my career shut down. This was 2008, and it was like, well, what do I do? And so I decided 2 years later that I had to take my growth in my own hands. And so when I went out on my own and started practicing, I did what we were all told to do. And what's that? Throw it out there. What's that? Type it in the chat. What were we told to do? Bill by the hour, right? That's how you bill. You get clients, you bill by the hour, you get a retainer, you do all those great things, right? That's what we were told to do. Can anyone guess what happened? Yes. Overworked, sure. I was overworked. Anything else? I was underpaid. Agreed. Even better, I wasn't paid. I lost over 6 figures. I stopped calculating on 2 clients back to back when I went out on my own billing hourly. Because what happened was, it wasn't like the client didn't want to pay me. They didn't have the funds, and maybe I didn't price right, maybe I didn't understand as a younger attorney, but what did happen was I followed what I was told to do. You get a retainer, you bill against the retainer, you send the bill to your client, then they pay, you replenish the retainer, you do that, and it keeps going. Turns out the replenishment stopped, and we weren't able to be let out of the case because in the time, judges weren't as amenable to say, hey, this was a family law case twice back to back, and they weren't amenable to let us out. So that meant 6 figures later, I paid another attorney to finish out that case because I love my license. And I thought, well, better for me to figure out a way to end this and close this and be amicable and move on. But that was the start of this journey for me. And as I moved over, the first thing I did was flat fees. And I realized that with flat fees, they were good, but they were still a little bit inconsistent, right? I still had to chase clients. When it was done, it was like, well, what are you going to do next? I got to find another client. I did it next. And I had to go back to when I started corporate. Because what happens when you're in a company? Like, what happens? There's a payday. There's a paycheck. You know, you get this thing all the time, and it happens in the background, and you're just delivering. You're showing up for your clients. You're showing up for those that are in your business that you're serving. And I wanted that again. And so one day I pitched a client, and I said, what would it be like if I worked for you for $500 a month, and we just did stuff, right? I did the things in your business. And they said yes. And I didn't have a name for it, but that was over 10 years ago. And so today, we call it subscription legal services, but that's what started my journey. I worked in corporate. I realized I didn't like what was happening when, well, the market crashed, and I had to figure out a way to grow. Then I went out, tried what people told me to do, and that did not work. It was stressful. It was overwhelming. And then I tried flat fees and decided there had to be an even better way. And so I took over a decade. I don't need y'all to do that, right? Learn from what I did, and now take today as an idea that you can too move in this direction. Did it take adjustment? Yes, but technology wasn't where it was today, right? We didn't have the openness to alternative revenue streams like we do today. And so there's a lot of opportunity for you right now to follow in similar paths. So that's my journey, to tell you a little bit about me. And so now enough about how I got here. Let's get into it. So one of the things I love is a great quote. So we're all going to hear Mel Robbins soon, and I know we're all excited. I know I am. But another person I love to hear is Brené Brown. And this is one of the ways that I operate. There is no innovation and creativity without failure, period. So I failed a lot, but every single time I failed, I learned a bit more. And it was an opportunity for learning, an opportunity for growth. So as you move into this new way of doing it, it's not going to be perfect the first time you launch it. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking to learn, iterate, improve, and do it again, right? Learn, iterate, improve, and then go ahead and do it again, because that's how you make this work, and that's what happened. And so today, fast forward, my journey includes all of that, and it's led me to great successes along the way. So part one, we're going to talk about pitching. And so I'm going to go through this a little bit faster because I want to get a little bit more into the backside of the presentation. But again, if you have any questions, please ask me because I want this to be interactive. So the first thing you want to do is pitch the potential clients that you're going to serve. So who are your potential clients? I don't know. Who is your ideal client? Take this couple here. Let's say they are an estate planning, a couple looking for estate planning services, right? What are things that they need? Think about your ideal client. Or maybe they're looking to get their power of attorneys together. Maybe they're looking to create that trust. Maybe they have a will. Maybe they're buying a house. Maybe they have grandkids. What's happening? They're retired, living their best life, and they live in 2 different continents, and they want to understand how to manage their money. Or they have low savings, a large family, whatever it is. Who are the clients you serve? Get into the weeds, the details. Who are they? What do they do? Where are they at? What are their concerns? What are their goals? What are they trying to achieve? Because these are the things you want to get to know, their experiences, their goals, their roadblocks. If you are looking to do any business, but particularly a service-based business that's based on subscriptions, you need to know who your clients are serving. You get to know them by asking them questions, by seeing what matters to them, seeing what works, what doesn't. Right? Understanding their goals, their roadblocks, because that's what you're designing for. So if today you decided, I'm going to create my subscription, but you don't know who it's for, you don't know what their needs are, you don't know what they're looking to do, how can you create an effective subscription, right? So these are the first things I want you to think about. So whoever your clients are, think about them, individuals or businesses, okay? Maybe your client is, and I'm just going to go through a couple of client examples. Maybe you're a criminal attorney, and these are your clients. And you're like, well, who are they? They might be activists who are ongoing social activists that consistently protest, and they know as a part of what they do, they're going to get arrested. Not once, not twice, but over and over and over again. And they need someone to support them along that journey because they still work, they still have licenses, they still have things that they need to consider, but they know this is a part of what they're going to do. So maybe in criminal law, we think of ourselves as working with a certain type of client, but maybe this is your client. So what questions, concerns, what are they looking to do? How are they wanting to show up? Their goal is not to get rearrested, right? Because that might be part of what they're going to do. But how do you solve their needs? What are they looking to achieve? And how can you show up for them? So getting to know your clients is so key. Maybe your client is a client that's a real estate, right? They're getting their first house. What types of things do you think a couple looking to buy their first house are concerned about? Somebody throw it out to me. What do you think their goals, their objectives, some of their experiences? Say it again? Interest rates, right, sure. Maybe just trying to understand, all the paperwork also around, closing their first house. Maybe it's like, well, I'm trying to create a legacy for my child. And this house is a part of my wealth growing, right? Wealth generation, right? Who knows? But understanding what they're doing allows for you to start understanding how your services fit into their life, right? When you're moving to subscription-based services, we're moving from transactional or even litigation-based services to relationship-based services, right? So that means if you're looking to build relationships with your clients, if you're looking to support them along a journey, you have to get to know them. You need to know who they are. And that means today, every single one of you can be on the journey to launching your subscription by getting to know the clients you want to serve on this particular subscription. You don't need it to be packaged. You don't need it to be priced. You don't even need it to be processed out. But you do need to start the journey of asking the questions so you can get to know who they are. The other things you want to get to know are the benefits, differentiators, and transformations that they care about when they're along this particular journey. So what things are they looking to get when they're on the journey? What types of support do they want? What do they find valuable, right? What are the things that set somebody apart that they want to engage services with, buy from, build a relationship with? What is the big transformation? So that goal and transformation has a lot of connection for what we talked about before, but what's the transformation that they're looking to achieve, right? It's not for the real estate family buying the house. That's not the transformation. Go further. For the couple that is planning the estate, it's not getting the will, the trust. Go further, right? What is it? Creating a legacy for my family so when I'm not here, they are taken care of. They know I did everything to make sure they were supported, right? It's beyond what we do in the transaction. It's about the relationship. Okay? So maybe you work with international students. What's their goals? What are the things what's the transformation they want? Not to get the degree simply, but to maybe change their families' lives. Do you see where I'm going with this, right? You want to get to the transformation, the big goals, the ideas, the beliefs, what's happening in your client's life across a cycle, not just the point in time in which you serve them. Yes, we do these things for them. Yes, we bring our expertise to their life, but we are not the center, they are. Right? And understanding what they're doing allows for you to design much better services. Okay, another example is divorce, but y'all get the point. Okay, so take a screenshot. This is how you craft your pitch, right? So I went through this quickly for y'all, But this is how you craft your pitch. So who do you help? Who are your clients? I help a couple that just retired with 2 or 3 kids that have a pretty healthy estate. I help, that's the type of clients that you're talking about. What do you help them do? Right? What problem are they looking to solve? What's the transformation? 1 to 3 wins. Without, what are the emotions that are attached to that transformation? Happiness, sadness. A negative is what marketing would tell you to use. I prefer a little bit of positivity, but let's be honest, that does work, okay? And so, also as we're in this space of leveraging technology better, I want you to create a list of these things, right? How many people use ChatGPT right now? Fantastic. So you're gonna copy this. I don't need you to answer it great. Just start writing. My clients are, describe them as best as you can. I solve what? Describe the problem you're solving. And it's not, again, go beyond the transaction. What are they looking to do? And then add some transformations. Just write them out. Then write the negative emotion and then ask ChatGPT to draft this for you. So if you're not sure, we have tech. You don't have to worry about it. Let it give you your first version and start utilizing it, okay? So that means everyone here, I have ChatGPT on my phone, so I could just go on my phone and do this. Y'all can craft your pitch today. So if there's nothing else you're doing after today, it's going to pitch your clients or potential clients about this. And an even better tip, if you have current clients or recently past clients that you think would be good on a subscription, start pitching them. See what they say. Ask them, what would it be like if I worked with you in this way? You don't have to create it. You just have to start collecting data. All right. Now we've gone through pitching. Any questions? Any questions? Any thoughts? Everyone good? Give me a yes. Like I need interaction. Yes. Okay. Oh, go ahead. Yes. Thank you. So speak up. I'll repeat it, but. Great question. So the question was, what if I love this idea, but I can't be the person to make the decision if we move forward with it in the firm? What do I do? Well, collecting data is always the first step. If you go to someone and say, I want to do it, but there's no data behind it, then they might push back on you. But I would say, why not collect the data? You don't have to pitch your current clients. You can pitch your friends. You can talk to people. And when I say pitch, it's not saying you're going to hire me tomorrow necessarily. But I want to tell you, hey, I want to help people do this, and I want to help them stop doing this, right? I want to help CEOs and executive leadership teams transform the world, right? Like, what do you want to do, right? And talk to them. Tell me what you feel. Does that make sense? What would you need for me to help you do that? And gather that data, collect the data, and then present it. And say, listen, this is where the industry is moving. It's not going to stop, right? We estimate by 2025, 26, about 64% of lawyers will be subscription-based. In 2020, it was 8%, right? When I did this, there were like a handful when I started. Maybe I might have been the first or one of the first, right? So it is changing. And if nothing from yesterday taught us, and even throughout the rest of these sessions, the best reason for you to move away from hourly today is AI. AI will allow for us to do things in ways that will kill the idea that I'm trading time for money. Why? It did it in 2 seconds. Yes, you might have taken 5 hours to create a prompt, but now it's usable over and over again. How do you actually price that now? So I would start with data and then present the data and see what happens, okay? All right, so this is your pitch. You have your pitch. I want you to start pitching. We're gonna go to part 2. Now we're gonna talk about designing. So now that you've pitched it, and you should be pitching while you're designing. The pitching never stops. It never, ever stops. I adjust my pitch to today. I learn something new, a client says something slightly different, and then I adjust my wording to reflect how my clients talk, the things that matter to them, right? So you're always iterating on this pitch, but once you start collecting the data, you'll have a better understanding of how you're gonna now design your subscription. Because you've heard their feedback, they've told you what they like, they've told you what they need. They don't have to tell you what services to deliver. You're the person that understands how to help them along that journey with the things that you know. So now we start designing. Okay, again, In design, constraints are the foundation. You cannot put everything in a subscription because if you do, you're going to be overworked, overwhelmed, right? It's not meant for everything. One of the things across the conference that people would say to me, they would be like, well, I want to do a subscription, but I can't figure out how to put my services in there and not feel like there's going to be scope creep and not feel like they're going to be always calling me all the time. Well, your subscription doesn't include everything. You have maybe a limit on the number of calls, or maybe you have a constraint on how they can access calls. Maybe it's only scheduled calls. I do unlimited calls, but they're unlimited scheduled calls, right? There's an asterisk to that. And that doesn't mean I'm hiding it or not telling a client. You communicate, you're transparent, you're clear, and so it's an informed decision on both sides. Do we want to work with that client, and does that client want to work with us, okay? All right. So before I go in, I know, ethics. There is a paper that everyone should have that I wrote that was published at the top of last month that everyone should have access to that goes into a little bit more in detail, high level still, on some of these concerns and thoughts. And so feel free to utilize that as a way to reference back some of the things that we're talking about today. But if you want to think about 5 ethical concerns you want to be thinking about: reasonableness in fees, client communication, protecting client funds, limited scope, and modern billing models. But guess what? This is the same thing that happens today whether or not you're doing subscriptions. So you should be concerned about client communication. It's the number one reason we get complaints. You don't communicate, so how can you optimize and systematize that? Protecting client funds not an issue. You either deposit into trust, you deposit into operating. That's not a concern, right? Modern billing models, we've talked about it enough to understand at this point there's better ways to bill, and that many of us do it. Unbundled, flat fee, subscription, we've seen a lot of different ways, including limited scope and whatnot. So these are some of the considerations. If you want to read more on ethics, these are things just for you to consider. I wanted to highlight it because I know it's something, but we're not going to dwell. Okay, so we're designing. We're going to first talk about what subscriptions aren't. So if you tell me I offer a subscription, but my subscription is 10 hours a month, for $2,000 a month, or 10 hours for $2,000 a month, that is repackaged hourly services. Those are not subscriptions, right? If you are trading time for money, you're doing hourly billing. We are not doing that here. If you are doing advance payments, awesome, but it's not a subscription. It's an advance payment, right? Different than a subscription. If you're doing payment plans, it's not a subscription. They're paying down something that they've committed to versus getting access to things ongoing. Right? It's not indefinite. How many people thought a subscription never ends? How many people feel like your subscriptions that you subscribe to today never end? Is that right? Okay, so at least, okay, you're honest, because a lot of people will say, but right? You know what you could do with your subscription at any moment? Cancel, right? You can say no to it. So your subscription that you're offering to your clients are also not indefinite. You have a start and an end. And be good with that, because they're not meant to be with you forever. You're a part of their journey from point A to point B, or point C in their journey to point F, and then they continue on, right? But you're a part of the process, you're not the center of it. And subscriptions are not only $95 a month. They work. Shout out to Council for Creators, who has a $95 a month subscription. I did one too many years ago, and now today I have a $100 a month subscription, and it works. I also have a subscription for $15,000 plus a month, and that also works. But what is the core there? It's how you design it, and who you're designing it for, more importantly, right? Okay, so these are what they're not. So what are subscriptions? You're like, okay, thanks. This is very lawyerly of me to tell you what it's not, right? But what is it? This is what we care about. So this is what subscriptions are. They're a set of services for a particular customer for a defined interval for a flat recurring fee. Okay? So what does that mean? That means you're not offering everything, a subset, a portion of some services for that customer, that client that we just talked about, that you're getting to know, that you know everything about what's going on in their life and what their goals are. They're looking to build wealth. They're looking to, leverage their brand. They're looking to be able to create impact in the world as a social activist, right? For a defined interval. And what are the defined intervals? Whatever you want. I recommend monthly. I don't recommend necessarily you doing things outside of monthly until you get comfortable. But monthly works in the very beginning because you can stop and they can stop. It gives you an out. It gives them an out. It makes it easy. It's a low commitment and that you can iterate on. And it's for a recurring flat fee. So subscriptions are flat fees on steroids. How many people do flat fees right now? So if you do flat fees, you are on your journey to subscriptions. If you do flat fees today, you are closer to subscriptions than you probably even think you are. It's just reimagining how you package your flat fees into services and projects, into strategy and projects, okay? So it's just reimagining it. But this is what subscriptions are. So when we think about subscriptions, many of us have them. I have 3 of the 4. But let's talk about the one that probably makes most of us the most angry. Let's talk about Amazon. No, I'm just joking. It would be LegalZoom. How many people love LegalZoom? How many people love LegalZoom? That's a shame. Why don't you love LegalZoom? I love LegalZoom. Why do I love LegalZoom? How much research and development dollars do you have? Not as much as LegalZoom. What did LegalZoom prove to us? That there's a $1 billion market, a $1 billion opportunity to serve clients who have needs. What did Jack say? I say this all the time when I'm talking about subscriptions and about the need. There is 77% of legal needs, not in the United States, not in a particular state, globally, that are not being met. And so LegalZoom said to us, there's a way to serve clients. You may not like the outcome that LegalZoom does, but they still exist. Because what you see are the problems. You're missing all the success stories, right? Sure, there are times we've served clients and they went to another attorney and said, here's all the things that didn't go right, and that attorney could have fixed it. So I'm not saying it's the end-all be-all, but what I'm saying is they showed us that there's another way to serve clients, to serve in the legal industry that doesn't look like the way that we used to. So LegalZoom is an opportunity for us to learn, not to hate them, but to say, okay, they can sit in this lane and provide services. How can I sit in another lane and support clients even more? As a lawyer, as a legal professional that has access to things that LegalZoom cannot do today, right? Because if we don't adjust, if we don't listen, if we don't embrace that there's a lot of ways to operate, we will be taken over. Not replaced, but we're not going to be able to be a part of the conversation how to design a better legal industry. So what I'm saying to you is these are all subscriptions. What each of us show us is you can access music when you need it at any point and create a playlist that's easy. You can look at movies in your country or in another country and with ease, with the click of a button. You can access various small business vendors as well as large to get delivery right to your door for faster than maybe the next person because I'm subscribing to their annual Amazon Prime, right? Or for customers who are LegalZoom customers, they get access to some set of legal services for a defined amount of money so that they can solve problems that are happening or leverage opportunities that are happening in their life. So these are all subscription businesses that are working today, that have been working for years. Yes, sometimes challenges come up because they're in a different model, but like, what are their challenges mainly? Maybe there's a pricing issue, so Netflix is raising their price to get to profitability faster, but it's not like it doesn't work. What would it look like if every month you knew how much money was coming in? And then you can plan for that. You can make hiring decisions for that. You can make Clio 2024 travel decisions because of that, right? Because you know what's happening. And so we have a lot of examples across our lives that we can leverage to see what a subscription offer looks like. Because they're using the same framework that I'm using, right? They have a set of services for a defined customer for a particular interval, right? For a flat recurring fee. They're doing the exact same thing. Okay. My favorite, and as we transition to the next part, I want you to think about this because this is what I want you to think about as you're designing your subscriptions, is that you want to be consistent. You want to be predictable. You want to drive an amazing experience. How many people have a specific order at Starbucks? I do. I have a specific order now. I saw it on Instagram, and now I do it all the time. It is a grande soy latte. If you like this, take it, okay? Updosed ristretto. Chef's kiss. Amazing. Love it. It makes it a little stronger. It's a little something else, I don't know, but it's good. Love it. And that's what I go and I order. And if I taste it and I'm like, that's not soy, that's a different type of milk, I know, right? Because every time I go to a Starbucks, when it's made the exact same way consistently, I know what I'm getting. I know what to expect. And that's the energy we want you to bring to your services. We want consistency. We want an experience. We want it to be repeatable. regardless of where it's being done across your business. Now, of course, we're not necessarily, well, maybe your goal is to scale like Starbucks across the United States. But the point is, every single time a client, A, B, C, D, F, X, Y, Z comes to you, you want them to have a very similar, reasonably similar process outcome. Maybe it's nuanced because, yes, there are nuances to what we do, but we don't want it to be so different that we can't process it out, systematize it out, be able to scale our businesses, because that's what keeps us constrained as well. So we want this idea, we want this experience. Okay, sorry. So now that we talked about designing, one of the questions I get all the time is pricing. So first and foremost, you're not gonna get pricing right in the beginning. Own it, okay? You're not gonna get it right in the beginning. This is iteration. This is experimentation. You're not going from zero to launching without a part of that launching being a beta launch and experimentation. So you are in a learning mindset when you're delivering this service, or when you're starting to deliver this service. But when you're pricing, you need to be embracing transparency. So today, my pricing is on my website. You can go to my website now and you will see it, my firm's website that is, and you will see my pricing for my subscriptions. We don't hide it. There's no point in me having a conversation if a client is not going to want to pay it, because there's just a way that we have to show up for you. And that's a decision that we make, and we make that transparent, right? So embrace transparency, and what does that look like? First, it means defining your scope. Get clear on what is and what is not included. As I said earlier, your subscriptions don't include everything, but what at their core, what must they include, right? So write down 3 things your subscription must include right now. Just write down, if you're thinking about it, what are 3 things that your subscription must include? I'm going to give you one, some type of communication, right? That doesn't mean if you don't have to be on the phone call with your clients every single moment, but you have to figure out a way to communicate what's happening. So what does that communication look like, right? Think about 2 other things that your subscription at its core has to offer. And it's actually not going to be there's going to be a few things on that list that I would say it doesn't have to offer that as a part of the subscription. It could be an add-on. But there are core ways you want to show up for your client to allow to answer questions, resolve problems, give them feedback on things that are happening, allow them to be educated, to be able to know and trust you, give you information so that you can issue spot for them, right? How can you get these types of information for your clients? What are 3 ways? How can you show up for them before you even go into the complex work, okay? So define your scope. The next thing is you're going to set your timeline. So know your processes and set realistic expectations. So when you're really thinking about a subscription, every component of your subscription needs to be processed out. That means how I do phone calls need to be processed out. That means how forms are completed need to be processed out. Are you going to have that today? Maybe not. How many people do SOPs right now, standard operating procedures in your business? How many people have some type of process? Okay. If the other piece of homework that you want after this outside of pitching is if you don't have SOPs, start creating them today. That is your fastest way away from hourly, and that's the fastest way to scale a flat fee. And then once you do that, it's just a flip of a lever to do a subscription as you continue to process out what you're doing. Okay? But you need to set your timeline, meaning, 1, how long is your subscription going to renew? What's your renewal term? Monthly, quarterly, annual. Again, I recommend monthly. And then for each of the things you do, how long does it take to complete it? So if I'm doing meetings, if I say a client has access to a meeting once a month, how long is it going to take me to complete that meeting? Or what's the process, I should say, because I don't really care as much about time in the way that I just said it, but what's the process for me to complete that meeting? What are the things I must do to make sure that it's an effective meeting? Meet with the client? What else? I have to schedule it? Read the file, right? Because when you just say, okay, I'm going to charge you $250 an hour for a meeting, but what goes into doing it? It is the prep, it is the post, it is the communicating, it's the issue spotting, it's keeping up to date on the relevant issues that might be popping up so you can listen well, it's refining your active listening skills, it's coming to places like this to up-level, right? It's thinking about all the components of it. So when you're really thinking about pricing, it's getting to the weeds. Most of the time when you're pricing your services, you are pricing something like divorce, when you should be pricing more like a meeting, right? Or processing out a meeting and then pricing out phase 1 of a divorce, right? Phase 1, which might be, I don't do divorces anymore, so I'm like, what is it? Phase 1, I'll do trademarks, for example, because that's what I do. So I'm not going to process out prosecution. I'm going to process out trademark strategy, right? I'm going to price trademark strategy, not trademark prosecution as a whole. The entire thing will be priced with multiple pieces, with multiple timelines based off of what I'm doing, but you got to get into the weeds, get into the details. And then finally, you're going to set your fee. So when you do the scope and you have the timeline, then you set your fee. The fee doesn't come before you understand what you're doing. And a lot of times, everybody wants to offer a subscription at this rate, but you don't actually understand how you're going to offer it. So the key to offering a subscription isn't the price, right? It's really understanding how to deliver it ongoing, right? It's really understanding who the client is and how to make this something they want in value so they can say yes to you month after month after month, or year after year after year, whatever your time interval is. So you want to establish a minimum flat fee so that you can consistently deliver that service. So once you see the scope, once you see your processes, then you're going to say, okay, for me to do this, what is the minimum fee that labor cost, profit cost, overhead cost, research and development, right? A little bit like LegalZoom has, right? A little research and development cost, tax cost, right? What are all these costs that go into it so then I understand that my fee is actually something that will get me to profitability. And so if you're offering a subscription that's $95 a month, you're not gonna, you could be profitable with one subscription, you won't be sustainable yet. It might take you 100, 1,000, whatever it is to get to that amount, but you have to know what that is, right? Okay, so then you're gonna embrace transparency. Okay, back to the same group of international students that we talked about. When we're thinking about pricing for them, one of the keys also is thinking back to your ideal client. Because if you're pricing your services and you're just making it up, and you price for international students $1,000 a month, are they gonna be able to afford that? So did you just design an entire service that made no sense? You priced it, you scoped it, but you didn't really identify, back to what we said in the beginning, who the ideal client is? That's always key here. So as we're talking about pricing, as I'm talking about designing, I'm gonna always go back to that pitching part and knowing your ideal client, because if you can come back to it and say, well, can this group of students, if I'm in immigration and I represent various clients, and these are a group of students that I represent, can they actually pay me month after month for this? If they can't, we have to rethink if I've packaged it and scoped it right. It's okay to reduce down that scope to make sure I'm meeting the needs of the clients, right? But you always have to be doing it that way. Okay, these are just some more examples, so I'm gonna move on from that. Now finally, part 3, let's talk about delivering. So we've done pitching, we've done designing. Now the third part about a subscription is delivering your services. So subscriptions, the easiest part in the subscription service is getting payment. Today, you can do subscriptions through every payment processor in some form or fashion, right? You could do that, right? When you're thinking about, as I said earlier, when you're thinking about depositing your money, whether it goes in trust account or if it goes in your operating account, easy. But the real piece of subscriptions is retention. And the way you get to retention, meaning you keep clients month after month, is how you deliver your services. So if you don't keep your clients month after month, you always will be chasing new subscribers, new members, new subscription clients, because the people that leave will be too many, and the people that come in won't replace that revenue. So no matter what you do in the beginning, you're not worried about getting 100 clients in the beginning, 20 clients, 10 clients. You're looking for a subset, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on the size of your subscription, to get you going to test it. So you can test your delivery to see if it's working. So when I think about delivery, I like to use examples, other things in life that helps us think about it. So for me, the restaurant example is a great way to think about delivery and how you can apply this to your business. So in a restaurant, we think of the back of house of a restaurant, right? You have your chef that's training people to put that chef's, touch on it without the chef having to do it. Create consistent plates every single time with a particular recipe that gets to something that people keep on wanting to buy over and over again. Their back of the house is in order. It's process-driven. It leads to a refined, similar outcome every single time so that someone, you, I, or the next patron of that restaurant will keep on coming back and saying yes. They have their back of the house in order to be able to scale their business. Without that, it becomes disjointed, it becomes hard to do it, you have all the, everything falling apart in the kitchen, but this is perfection in a kitchen, right? The same thing holds true in your business, right? Your back of the house, your processes, your systems, the way you project manage needs to be organized and efficient and effective, and that's how you really focus on delivering a subscription. So let's take the other side of a restaurant, the front of the house. For the owner of the restaurant, this is the ambiance I'm setting, right? This is how you come in and you see it. Makes you want to come back. It makes you feel greeted, welcomed, right? In our offices, what is that? If you're in a virtual practice, how do you make your clients feel welcome? What is it like? What is your experience like? Is it easy to navigate with you? Do you make them send you a check in the mail? Do you know, I know none of us do that anymore here, but right, some people we know might. I hired some lawyers that made me do that, and I was like, how did I hire that lawyer? Okay, right? But like, what's the experience? So part of when you're doing a subscription, it's not simply pushing out things, it's really getting deeper and creating a relationship, like I said earlier. So what's the experience that you want? In a restaurant, they have an ambiance, they have an energy, they have a way of showing up. Their values are showing through in their business. Same for you and your practice. Before your client even enters, you need to understand what you want that to be. So then when the client enters, when the customer enters, they're getting a consistent experience. So that back of house then delivers to the client in the front of house something that they would expect, something that they know, something that they can trust, that they're willing to come back to over and over again and rely on you. And say month after month, yes, for you to still be my attorney. Yes, for me to still get an additional project from you because I trust that you know what we're doing and that you'll take the next step with me. And I'll trust that I can leave that in your hands so I can live my life or build my business, right? So this restaurant analogy, I want you to think about in your business. You need to have your back of house in order. Does it happen from 0 to 100? No, it takes a while to build that out. But you're working towards that. You're working to that level of systemization, process-driven, so that that plate has essentially the same elements. How you serve your clients has similar elements. Okay, so when we're talking about delivery, these are 3 key things you want it to be in a firm. Client-centered, process-driven, tech-enabled, predictable, sustainable, and scalable. So a subscription works when you can scale it. But to get to scalability, you have to be able to test and tweak and iterate. So your first group of beta clients allows for you to do that. But once you learn, once you start collecting the data, then all it is turning up the dial. But if you started to pitch in the very beginning, turning up the dial is pitching to more people, talking to more people, marketing to more people, using that pitch in so many different ways because now you understand your clients. And if you're doing that, then you can continue to grow, scale, iterate, expand, whatever makes sense for you. But your delivery has to be client-centered, right? That means we're thinking about the client's journey, like I said earlier. Process-driven, tech-enabled, you get that, right? If you are doing too many things, that if your statement to me is that everything must be custom, I'm going to challenge you and say, it can't be. That's not a sustainable way to operate. And AI will tell you, we don't believe you. I'm going to type it into AI, and it's going to give me 60%. It might be 40% wrong, but it gave me 60% of the way to make it not actually have to be that customizable. So how can we really take a step back and customize when we need to customize, but process as much as we can, systematize as much as we can, so then we can sit in the role as advisor, issue spotter, counselor, and not document generator when a technology tool can do that for us. And I'm going to go back, so these are back to examples. So those were the examples. So now I'm going to open it up to Q&A. I have a few minutes to kind of go through some of these concepts. One of the, I'm going to go back to the pitch because as we go through some of the Q&A, I'm going to work on, if you're open to it, your pitching. I have to go back a little bit. I apologize. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to work on your pitching, but you're open to ask me any other questions around design, scoping, pricing. But at the end of the day, you need to know who your client is. So before you ask the question, first tell us who your client is and then ask your question so we can at least put some context to it. All right, let's go for the question.
Just want to test this. Yep.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed a little bit because I had to run out to the bathroom, but
no worries.
I'm trying to figure out.
Well, first tell us your client. Who's the client that you're looking to serve? Type of client.
That's sort of my question. It seems to me like subscription services lend themselves more towards business clientele more than consumer clientele, like personal.
Can you? It's a little muffled for me.
it seems like subscription services lend themselves more to business clientele rather than consumer clientele. Would you agree?
No.
Okay.
But I'll answer that. I'll go beyond. So no, I don't agree that it's, so the question is, are subscription services geared just to business clientele or more towards it than individuals? No. Because there could be, so first of all those subscriptions I showed you before are not business-focused subscriptions. LegalZoom has a business component. Every single one of those subscriptions are consumer-facing subscriptions, right, that they do, right? And so in the same way, no, they're not. But back to how we offer. So when we're thinking about family law, estate planning, immigration, like, going through the different pieces, every client is going across an entire journey in their life. And a subscription helps them along points in time in that journey. So you're not supporting probably that client from the time they're born to the time they're not here, but you are supporting them maybe along the journey for an estate planning from, retiring to when they're not here, their family being set up for financial success and wealth generation. That's the part of the journey you're working on. Or if you're in family and you're working with someone that's getting divorced, you're supporting them along their transition to having a post-divorce happy life, right? With a good co-parenting relationship. Because they don't care about the divorce. They care about what's going to look like after I'm divorced, right? They don't care about what my money is like today. They care that I'm doing things with my money today to ensure a certain type of future for my family tomorrow, right? So it could absolutely work for individuals, but one of the things you need to do is shift the way you think about where we fit into our clients' lives and how we can serve them over a journey and not just a point in time.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, nice. There's one up here. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. My question is around pricing.
Yes.
And the ideal client that I have in mind is small to medium-sized engineering companies.
Okay.
And for a subscription model of providing fractional general counsel services, if I price it, let's say, to $3,000 a month or $5,000 a month, well, my ideal client is basically a company that is small enough that they can afford an in-house general counsel, but they're big enough that they are doing interesting engineering work.
Okay.
But if I price it at a point, my worry is that they will say, well, if I could afford a GC, I would just go hire someone for $5,000 a month and have them as a full-time employee. So how do I price it so that it would make sense to them to hire me?
Well, great question. So the question is, how do I think about pricing and how do I make the pricing something the clients will find valuable is what I'm hearing, right? How do I make it something the client will say yes to, make an exchange? Well, first and foremost, you got to know your client. So if we're saying our client is a client that is not ready for in-house counsel, how do you know they're not ready for in-house counsel? Or they don't have it. So to me, they don't have it because they're not ready for it. There's some reason. So you would go through the reasons why they're not ready for it. Right? And you would talk to those reasons. That's how you would market. You would talk to those reasons and you would solve those problems. And you would tell them like, hey, you're not ready for it for X, Y, and Z. So because I am similar, I can talk a little bit closer to that. So I can't say if someone asks me a question in the practice area, I don't know. It won't be the same. But in that case, what does it look like actually to hire someone at $5,000 a month? Maybe, but if most of us know as an employer, it's not $5,000 a month. It's $5,000 times benefits, times insurance, times time off. You're looking for a level of expertise. You're probably coming into an area of not maybe necessarily general counsel, but you might be focusing on a specific area. I will say as a tip for people who work with businesses, I actually think it's a secret sauce not to be GC. I used to do that, but I would be a focused GC if you're going to do that. I might issue spot on a lot of things, but I'm focused in a particular area. So if you're really good in engineering, double down on your understanding of engineering as why you're coming in. Because to get someone to replace you is a six-figure at minimum salary, right? So that's the point of comparison. And so in my firm, our subscriptions aren't forever. The subscription lasts until they're ready to hire an in-house counsel. And we support you on that transition as well. We will help you hire, we will help you interview, we will help set you up for that. And so when you're designing your subscription, you're designing it for the client. You're centering the client and what their needs are. And in that case, their needs are how to get themselves ready meaning business-wise, revenue-wise, team size-wise, to support the salary of an in-house counsel, then your values are, then your needs and outcomes are aligned, and you'll package your services appropriately. But so that's how you would do it, right? You would think about what is the point of comparison, and then go from there. Hope that helps, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. My clients are primarily estate planning clients.
It's a little, is it muffled just for me, or just, are y'all hear it okay?
Oh, is that better?
Okay, it's just a little bit for me. Your clients are what?
Primarily estate planning clients.
Okay, perfect, estate planning.
I could see an opportunity for those clients to maybe continually update their documents. My question is, during the pitch, how do you guard against the perception that you're hiding your services behind a paywall, which generally is considered a bad thing for other digitally provided services?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. The question is, how do you, if you're pitching this, so there's a couple of things in there, but if you're pitching this, how do you pitch this and not feel like you're hiding everything behind a paywall, right? And make sure your clients will say yes to it and understand how it's set up. So first, I could say there's a couple of ways to think about this. You don't have to be a subscription-only practice, right? You might decide subscriptions are one way you can work with us, but you can still work with us in this other way. Right? Over time, you might see that it might make more sense to be a subscription-only practice, but you don't have to operate like that. But assuming you want to operate like that. So today, my firm is a completely subscription-based law firm. I have Fidu now, so I don't want to work in that same capacity in the way I did in the past. So we're 100% subscription. And I also don't hide that behind my paywall. That's a value add. And it's also just a mindset on how we approach our way of working with our clients. And so is it a bad thing to say, no, actually, we offer subscription services, and that we do that so that we can support you across your journey. As a subscription client, we get to know your business. We learn your business, we grow with your business, and when you're ready to need additional services, you can add it on at the time you need it. Right? And here are some types of services that we offer. Here are an example set. When you're ready, we can talk about it and what that fee would cost for you to do it if it's not included in their subscription, and then you can decide to do it. So I wouldn't hide it. Again, back to transparency. It is being clear on how you're designing it, but why are you designing it that way? It's not to hide it behind it. What I'm assuming, it's not to hide it, it's to be able to provide better services, because now you know that client better. You've built that relationship. So that's why I say it's not it's not litigation or transactional. It's relationship-based practicing, right? So, hope that helps. Yeah? Okay, cool. And I definitely think in that context, there's a lot of support you could do for a client in estate planning in that way. We have a question up here.
We have a virtual question, actually, from Melanie, and we want to know, how do you determine if this reconciles with ethics rules in your jurisdiction?
How do you determine if subscription reconciles with it? Was that Melanie?
Melanie, correct.
Okay, hey Melanie. So, ethics, no legal advice, but go read your ethics. The biggest thing I find is that we think it doesn't work, but it's allowed, or it's actually the ethics rules are fighting each other because they allow for one thing, which is essentially a subscription. So, how do you read it? Things you want to look at: advance payments. Look at the rules around advance payments. Look at the rules around retainers. Look at the rules around evergreen retainers. Look at the rules around flat fees, because we're flat fees on steroids, right? And see what it says. Ultimately, what ends up happening is either the biggest issue is where does the money go, or is it reasonableness? But you are making an exchange, you are clear on what's included and what's not, and you're not pricing on hours, you're pricing on value plus some other things, right? And so if that's how you're doing it, then you will meet your requirements. Again, I'm not going to give you advice on that, but read those rules. What I will find in the jurisdictions, they either tell you have to deposit it into your trust account, no big deal. Deposit into your trust, move it into operating. That might be an issue. They might say, that's usually the biggest one that I hear. They might say concerns on reasonableness of fees, but that's because you said you didn't scope it. Scope it. This is what it includes. They're getting access to these things. Every month, my client can book a call, review documents, get resources on a particular area, be able to start something, be able to fill out a form that they can use with their child, or fill out a power of attorney that they have ready that's customized to their needs. Whatever it is, you will have set that up so that when you're asking about reasonableness, you have made that exchange with your clients with clarity. A lot of our issue, I find, is that we're not clear. Clients don't complain when they understand. Now, if you have the outliers, we can't design for the outliers. But in over 10 years of practicing, that's not been my issue. I don't have clients that call me too much. I mean, I have clients that, but relative to what they are, paying to the firm, you manage it. And it's really about setting expectations. So I would tell you to read those particular ethics rules, see what they say, and then most state bars have some type of hotline that you can reach out to. Reach out to the hotline, but have the conversation, press them and ask them, well, what do you allow for flat fees? Are flat fees allowed to go? Flat fees allowed? Well, this is just a flat fee every single month, right? If they allow for flat fees, what's the argument not to allow for a subscription? It's a lack of understanding of what a subscription is, so tell them what it is. If it's a flat fee, month after month, then can they say no? If they've already allowed flat fees, and every jurisdiction basically does. So for the most part, I think. I can't remember if one doesn't, but hope that helps, yeah.
We can do another one from online. We have Elena who would like to know, how do we switch from flat fee to subscription if we already include comprehensive services in our billing now?
Good question. So if you're looking to transition from flat fee to subscription, then I would look at your entire flat fee list of services and break it down into two parts. A set of what are the core services that are not, so the way I think about a subscription, there are two parts of a subscription: your strategy and your projects, right? The way you think, the way you operate, the way you issue spot, the way you can help somebody identify opportunities and whatnot, those are all the ways you do strategy. We do strategy through counseling, through reviewing documents, we do strategy by gathering information. We do strategy in a lot of different ways, right? So think about all the ways you do strategy pieces, and then think about all the custom work you do as projects and put them in another column. And then as you look at the core services in the strategy area, think about what are the core things you need for most of those things on the right-hand side. And that becomes the baseline of you starting that transition. But if you have flat fees today, you have the ability to start that transition now by removing some of the customizations in your flat fees, the project part of it, and really just separating out all the things that are like feedback, calls, document reviews, things that you can do ongoing, systematized, not customized. That's how you start that transition. Hope that helps, yeah. Okay, I think we have a few more minutes for maybe one more question. There's one back there, and there's one up here and one back there, I think. In the back, all the way in the back. Oh, I didn't see you. Okay, go for it.
Hi, we have a lot of clients that come to us through referrals.
For referrals, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
So about 95% of our clients come through referrals.
Okay.
They're referred to a specific attorney, and most of the time they stay with that attorney because they like that attorney's particular expertise or approach or personality, whatever. My question is, when I'm thinking about this subscription service, one of the things that our clients might want is guaranteed access to that specific attorney. How do you budget time internally for that specific attorney to be able to take care of whatever it is? Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, so the question is around how do you manage delivering your service when every client wants to go to one particular attorney?
Yes.
So that's, I would say, not a subscription issue. That's more of a client management and communication issue, right? And in the subscription context, we would say you are becoming a client of the firm, not of a particular lawyer potentially. But if they are doing it of a particular lawyer, then you have to manage how many subscription clients that attorney can carry, right? Like how many can they actually carry a month? You need to understand that ratio as you're building it out so that you can start saying, okay, every attorney can carry 10 subscription clients, and then you can assign a lead attorney to that in that way. I mean, but I think a little bit of that is along the process of bringing a client in and onboarding a client. Don't onboard them to one person, onboard them to the experience. Go back to the restaurant. You have many touch points in a restaurant when you enter a restaurant. You don't talk to one person. You have a hostess, then you have someone that might seat you, someone who gets you water, someone then who might take your order. It's a team that works together. So in the very beginning, subscription or not, when you're introducing a new client to the firm, introduce them to the team of support that they're getting. If that's one team and you today, okay. But if it's 3 or 4 people, introduce them to the team and let them understand how it works. I think a lot of this is trying to get very transparent with our clients about how we show up and serve them and why we've done it that way. Doesn't mean you have to overly explain yourself, but creating that level of transparency and that communication would help. So that's how I would initially address it. But when we're thinking about subscriptions, yeah, there is a capacity. We all have, there's only 24 hours in the day. We're not trying to trade time for money. The more efficient you get, you might be able to have a higher capacity, but do you want to? So what's a healthy capacity that makes sense for your firm, that allows for you to drive profitability and sustainability? And so I would look at those numbers and map that out. So if I have 20, 10,000 subscription clients, the baseline I get from them is, what is that, $200,000 a year? That's not bad math, that's bad math. 20 times the, I don't know. Let's say it's $200,000 a year, right? I was like, whatever the math was, right? And we can say, great, that's the baseline I get from that particular client. Now, what team do I need to deliver that? Well, the team is going to be a portion of that. And then, okay, awesome. I build a team, and those are the people that service that client. So I would make sure I'm communicating to the potential client or the clients that you're bringing in that we work as a team. If that particular attorney doesn't have the capacity, I'd let them know, and here are other people to do it, but this is how we work. And we have, and you're not just accessing one attorney's knowledge. Because it's subscription-based, you get to access really the firm's knowledge because of how we support you. So it's just thinking about the values of the firm, how you show up, and then communicating that ongoing to the clients before they even come into your funnel. Cool. I know there was one more. Are we done? I know we have one more question. Do you want me to get the one you had? I know your hand up for a while. Can we just do the last question? Because she was up here and she had it at the very top in the front. I'm sorry. But I'll be in the back. I will wait after. I know we're at time. So let me answer one more question in the front, and then we'll be at time. Let me go through. So as I answer that question, there are more ways we can still connect and we can still chat, but go for your question and then we'll wrap.
Thanks. The ideal client would be a small, mid-size business owner. And I know, a suite of services that we would provide would be, maybe operating agreement, formation, employee agreements, negotiating their lease. But I worry about timeliness, of course, on the client end, but on my end too. Do you recommend trying to manage by saying, within this 6-month subscription period, here's what we can get accomplished for you?
No.
Or we will do one project at a time, or 2 projects at a time for the duration, because I worry about a client expecting, well, you should this month get my organizational documents, my employment agreements, and my lease negotiated, but that's, too much within that time period.
Yeah, so the question we just have about scoping your services to allow for you to be able to show up for your clients in a way that you can actually deliver the services at scale, right? And so making sure we're clear on the scope. So in that case, I generally don't recommend you have 6 months for completing all of these things in a time frame, because it's not clear. Instead, make sure there's smaller parts. So one thing I'm going to first say, in her example, it was I have maybe a service as a formation or a document being created and things like that. Those are projects, not services. Services are I'm communicating, I'm reviewing something that is repeatable, scalable, that doesn't require a lot of customization. Those are services or strategy type services. Everything else is a project. Any nuance, complexity is a project, right? Whether or not you include that in your subscription is a different story. But what I would say was I would definitely focus the client on moving a certain amount of work forward. If they want to have 2 projects open at a time, awesome. We might have 2 projects open. You pick your 2, you do it. You might recommend what 2 they need to do based off of what their goals are. That's what they're coming to you for. But they have the ability to make the decision to say, cool, I still want to do X, Y, and Z. So that's what I would do, right? So you build this in a way that it's collaborative, that gives yourself the ability to deliver it properly and doesn't put you into unrealistic expectations. So if you understand that there's a lot of ebbs and flows, we don't ignore them. Instead, we build it into the model, which is great. Right now, I'm going to actively work on your formation. This requires us to do things. Typically, it might take about 3 months. You give them that as a timeline, for example. But if it goes beyond it, we're going to stay working on that until it's done, right? But you hold yourself accountable, you hold the client accountable, and then you work in a process-driven way to get that. And the way you can do that is by having the processes in the background. So that's how you do it. So as we wrap, I will say you just got to take the next step. You have the pitch. You don't have to have it completely mapped out. Go find the clients that want to do it. Take your next step, right? Take your next step. Here are a few resources. Of course, I can't do a lot of pricing. If you've never read Profit First, I 100% recommend it as a way to start thinking about what are the parts of your pricing that are important. They just talk about it's a cash flow management book. It's not about replacing how you do things, but it's a great way to think about it. And Mindset, I always recommend Radaya Rhodes. It's a quick book, but it helps you elevate your intention so that you can commit to doing this, right? Because if you want to do it, it's not going to happen overnight, but you got to commit. So remember my quotes, and if you want to stay connected, this is how you do it. I look forward to seeing you. This has been an amazing journey for me. Today, I am proud co-founder of Fidoo, and because, I think my goal for y'all is to stop hourly billing. If I can get everyone here a minimum to be flat fee, I've won. If I can get y'all to get to subscription, well, I've knocked it out the park, right? So just take one step. Start pitching people, see what happens, and if you want to chat more, you can come to the front. And if you're a flat fee or subscription lawyer, we have some stickers. Come grab one. I'd love to give it out to you. So keep going. Go for it. If there's anything you want to chat about, let me know. Thanks, everyone.